What's up, guys? Welcome back for another video. We are Pen and Needle. In this channel we go over a lot of things that we like as resident physicians and just as medical professionals, and we also touch on topics like MD versus DO. We will do that in this video a little bit too, so just make sure you stay tuned for that. But more specifically for this video, we are going to be talking about
this video is about our experience as Muslims going through medical school. And make sure to stick around till the end to find out what the difference is between me living in the Caribbean, medical school versus DO school in New York, what the differences and similarities
there are many for sure, and it's very important, so make sure you guys stick around for that.
So what was your experience as a Muslim going to medical school?
So for me, I always prioritize prayer in my schedule. So my schedule kind of runs on a priority of prayer first. So when I was in medical school, I had to find a balance for that, sorry, excuse me. There was a lot of things that kind of would make me feel like it was conflicting against that, but once I got in the rhythm of things, it was very easy to do. If prayer was in between classes and I knew the prayer was going to end between those specific time periods, I would just step out of the room, because you're allowed to do that, and just quickly pray on the side, and there's always going to be space, so just pray, come back, you'll be fine, And another thing that I did was, I clicked up with other Muslims, like people who relate to you, because this is also an identity for me, and it's more, I feel like a part of a group when there's other group members around. So I joined the MMSA. I was the president, co-founder for that, and we created this group, and it was amazing. I led the Friday prayers. I would give the sermons, which also helped me with my speaking ability, where I wasn't fearful of talking in front of people anymore, because you're always nervous, and it helped me on my presentations too, just doing that. When you're standing up and speaking to a group of people, it naturally translates over when you're in your clinical years to do that as well. You can think about doing that if you want, but for me it was definitely the prayer thing, very important. I had to get my prayers in the day, and overall the experience was pretty nice. I would say I didn't mind it.
Yeah, it was very similar to mine. Like I lived on campus. We had like a little mosque over there, which was very close to where I lived, and a lot of my classes were online. So a lot of times, and even if I had classes during the day, they were like for 4 hours, 5 hours, and then you always had time like to pray during the day if you really wanted to. So I would just go, like we had 5-time prayers in the mosque, so I would just go whenever I had time, and I would go pray there. It wasn't that tough, honestly.
Dude, how was fasting for you when you were in medical school?
It was a little tough to study while you're fasting initially.
Yeah.
But as you go on, like the first week of Ramadan, second and third week of Ramadan, I don't know what it is, but you feel more energized.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And another thing was, initially, like my first year of medical school, that Ramadan, I had a night schedule. Oof. I would just like get some sleep in the morning, and I would wake up and study during the night till like the suhoor time, and then stay up a little bit past then, maybe take a nap, and then if I had class, wake up, go to class, come back, take a little bit of a nap, wake up for iftar, and then study after iftar.
Yeah.
And then to like sleep, I would have like these mini naps, and then like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, maybe during the night. I scheduled my sleep around mostly the late afternoon before iftar, and then after iftar study, and maybe take a nap after suhoor, and then go to class. And that kept me energized. But honestly, fasting doesn't really get in the way of studying.
It wasn't an issue, right?
After a while, you get used to it, you feel energized, and after like you're not taking in the toxins, coffee, like you realize coffee doesn't help.
And you don't even need it at that point.
None of that helps. It's just your willpower most of the time that's keeping you going, and it actually helps you retain and keep more fresh and keep more motivated.
Yeah.
And it helps you discipline your life around prayer and around those times, during Ramadan.
Yeah. I remember like there were students in my class, right? who were Muslim, and they would not fast. And it might be totally fine
Yeah.
to not do it if for your specific reasons, right? There are rulings that say that it's totally fine. That they would be turned off from fasting for that reason, that they think it would hinder their performance.
Yeah.
I thought I did better.
Bro, I took my step 1 while I was fasting.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, not fasting. I studied for my step 1, and luckily step 1 was like few days after Eid, and so that schedule that you're
Yeah.
talking about, that night schedule,
Yeah.
was what my step 1 studying schedule was.
Yeah.
I was study a little bit while fasting. You know, you get better as the Ramadan goes on, and then when you go to sleep, when you're supposed to go to sleep, that's when you actually kick it in and study. Make sure you're well rested before.
Yeah.
So that was actually my schedule. So
Yeah.
it wasn't even like an issue.
Yeah, I fasted. I studied for step 1 while fasting. I took my step 1 while I was fasting.
Yeah.
And I felt like I performed much better than if I was drinking 5 coffees a day and
Yeah.
drinking Monsters and all of that.
You're also like fasting like cuts out a lot of stuff. Like
You're
like
not
the need
distracted.
for food.
You're not like, I need snacks, I need
Yeah.
coffee, I need this. You have
Yeah.
more time to be focused. You're
Yeah.
much more focused while you're fasting, honestly.
And you don't feel like foggy anymore, right?
Yeah.
You're like when something pops up on the screen and you're like, oh, that usually you might feel foggy.
Yeah.
You actually start to understand. You're like, oh, okay, I'm actually getting a good rhythm of
And
things.
even
I have
if
more
you
energy.
do feel foggy initially, you would feel foggy on a regular basis while studying anyway, even after drinking coffee
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I think that just has to do with not having enough rest. And at that moment, you should probably use,
Go to
a nap or
to
15
sleep.
minutes or 20 minutes of a nap.
Yeah, for sure. And also there was another thing about like partying for me.
Yeah.
Because all these two things, praying and fasting, kept me really balanced and spirituality wise, and just as a person. And I think that's very important in medical
Yeah.
school, because you kind of lose that or feel like you're losing a balance in your life. And so these two things really help you maintain that balance in your spirit,
Yeah.
and especially spirituality wise, like
It prevents
keeps you
depression. It prevents
focused.
bad friends. It prevents like all of the things that can harm you, like drugs,
yeah.
alcohol, all of that.
And that's on that topic, yeah. So the partying aspect of it, right? So these things came in the picture where I would be invited for parties, like after an exam, people want to go out,
Yeah.
they want to relax, they want to go to a bar or something.
Yeah.
Since I was doing these things, it never really fazed me. I was never really too concerned about it. Like, okay, you guys have fun. I'm just gonna do my own thing.
Yeah.
I stayed balanced, and
I was never concerned either. But that was because I was never invited.
I'll invite you. We'll
To
have
a bar?
No, man. What the hell? Well,
I'm done with
sushi bar.
partying.
Sushi bar.
I like sushi.
We'll go after step 3.
Okay.
We knock out step 3.
Yeah.
We'll go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But those things, right? Like those outer temptations that come in the picture,
Yeah, yeah.
they weren't tempting anymore because I had that.
And it kind
praying
of
and fasting
helps,
for me.
like, build a community, like, around you. Like, the other Muslim people that are there, you kind of make friends with them. You stick together, and it prevents depression, right?
You do some nice
you share
halal
information.
partying.
Right, halal partying.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
We would do that sometimes.
You do halaling.
Halaling. Well, since I was the president of MMSA, we would have
Yeah.
like these events where we would
Yeah.
just come together and have like, I don't know, food
Yeah.
for everybody.
We had
and just-
iftars during Ramadan,
Yeah.
where we would all chip in, and we would order food, and we would all sit and eat together every iftar.
So technically it was 30 days of partying.
That was 30 days of. Actually, I guess I was invited to halaling.
Halaling. Yeah, but those were like, I think, the major differences,
Yeah.
right? I don't think there was anything. I didn't think like my religion or
Prevented you
as-
from being a doctor. No.
Yeah, like no one really
I think
cared
it makes
that I
you
had
a
a
better
beard.
doctor.
Yeah. But there were specific things. Now,
Yeah.
going into the MD versus DO aspect
Yeah.
that we promised you guys we would touch up on, those specific things did come in the picture. Like, for example, in the DO experience, right? We have a OMM lab that requires us to take off our shirts, to be hands-on with other students, and sometimes those students are males, sometimes they're females. And in our religion, it's better to practice medicine with your counterpart, your male
Yeah.
student, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you can avoid it, you should avoid it. But you're allowed to in these certain situations because it's for learning purposes. However, I was always still more comfortable learning on like one of my friends, male friends that would volunteer. And sometimes I knew that was a major issue, but mainly for guys it was okay because we would have that leniency. But for girls, I remember in the OMM class, they had a harder time, especially hijabi girls, because they have the hijab on. You don't want
Yeah.
to take it off. You know, you have to sometimes do the cervical neck. You have to do the thoracic, and you have to wear a sports bra, and you're exposing yourself. So there was some pushback a little bit from the school, and I would say that the school was amazing. They really accommodated for that respect. They put up curtains for the hijabi females, and they let them train with each other. But there was that little bit of awkwardness in OMM lab
Yeah.
that I would say was a major difference. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of students who are Muslims, and if you're a Muslim medical student or someone who's Muslim and considering going into medicine and deciding on MD versus DO, that's one thing you should be aware of, because I was never aware of this fact before going in. I just thought, cool
Yeah.
profession, let me do it.
Yeah.
But this is very important.
Yeah.
And
We had like trained patients, so I don't think I ever faced that dilemma. Maybe there were like some instances where students were made to be like the patients, but not that many that I can think of.
oh, it was every
Yeah.
week for us.
Yeah.
every
So that's
week.
different. Yeah.
Every single week it was OMM lab,
Yeah.
3 hours of it. 3 hours of being hands-on,
Yeah.
being physical. You know, like these things might get uncomfortable for some people.
Yeah.
So consider that, guys.
Yeah, thing
Oh.
with the Caribbeans was that, during Ramadan it becomes just a little bit tough with food because during suhoor
Oh
time,
yeah, you were in the Caribbean.
yeah,
Yeah.
during suhoor time, like everything on campus is closed, right? You can't go to Subway. I'm from SGU, so they have like this New York bagels and they have a Subway. You can't go eat to a daily or the Subway because they're closed. So during suhoor time for the 30 days, I was making my own food, which consisted of rice and beans, and sometimes
Rice and
mustard
beans,
and
okay.
ketchup on top.
Did you make your like famous sandwiches that you would do like in a
No, bro, I didn't
bagel
have.
or-
I didn't have.
No?
I'd be studying. I'd put the rice in the rice cooker
Yeah.
and the beans in like something, and then
Man, that
after
was
they
tough,
cook,
man.
like for the taste, I would put ketchup on
Yeah.
top or something.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like living in prison. For you know how it is, right? You
Yeah,
gotta, you gotta
kinda.
make it tasty. You put ketchup or chips, like you crush the chips up and sprinkle that on top. But that
That's
wasn't
that's
bad.
a thing to
I-
consider though.
when I think back to the experience, that experience was kind of
Probably
cool.
helped you mature, too.
I enjoyed it,
Yeah.
And iftar was always a party, so.
That's
it
but
wasn't
that's a
bad.
thing to consider,
Yeah.
right? When you're thinking about going to Caribbean
Yeah.
versus US
Yeah.
versus MD versus DO, all these factors come into play, right?
Yeah.
So there are little details that you might have to maneuver around, but I would say overall, if you're really determined, nothing phases you. It's all
Yeah.
easy, right? All the
Yeah.
stuff becomes easier if you really want to do it. Like you're determined to be in medical school, so you do it. You're determined to be a
Yeah.
doctor, so you do it.
I mean, all of that is not something that should prevent you from being a doctor
Yeah.
or from practicing being a Muslim.
Yeah.
All of those just things that we experienced and we found ways to come over,
Yeah.
Like you became the president of the Muslim organization and you told the school to accommodate and they did accommodate.
Well, I don't want to take responsibility for that because it's a group effort. Because before me,
Yeah.
or before like the small number of students that were there that wanted to join and make this thing happen, everyone contributed to that fact.
Yeah.
To make this happen. Because
And
it's
everyone's
important.
respectful overall. If you want to practice like your religion, everyone accommodates.
Yeah.
Like everyone's very helpful and understands what's going on. Everyone knows about Ramadan. Everyone knows about Muslim prayer 5 times.
Yeah.
Even during residency, like I interviewed upstate somewhere, and they told me like we have Muslims here that pray 5 times, and I was very surprised. This resident who was like white, I didn't even think she would know what Muslims are. She knew like what 5-time prayers were, and she was very understanding. And she was telling me because she thought that would be something that I would want to know. Like residents are able to pray 5 times a day in that hospital.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was one thing that I asked my residency program for the interview too. I'm like, can I pray here?
Yeah.
Because I think it's a good way to keep you balanced, But if you're really determined about this stuff, you know, it's not difficult. Fasting is not difficult. It's not a hindrance
Yeah.
to your medical knowledge. You're capable of doing all of this. We put limitations to ourselves.
And believe us, it prevents all the negative aspects of medical school, like depression,
Yeah.
like slacking off,
Yeah.
you know, like getting distracted by something else. It prevents all of that.
You have a very dedicated schedule. You
Yeah.
have to think about your time then.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't think about it because they just have that time. But when you don't have it, that's when it really becomes a benefit for you, because now you're thinking about it, you're accommodating for yourself, you're focusing on yourself, you're focusing on your spirituality, you're focusing on staying connected. So, I don't know. For me, it was nice. I liked the experience.
Yeah.
I appreciate whatever my school did for me.
Yeah.
I appreciate the knowledge that I got, and it wasn't an issue.
Yeah. So there you have it, guys. This video was about how to be a Muslim in medical school and our differences and similarities between MD and DOs.
Yep.
So if you like the video, like and subscribe, and we'll
subscribe.
see you in the next one.
Deuces.